How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to ReWrite, where we left things at a high point and then I had to leave for a week, which was just awful timing. We are here. It looks like a massive battle is raging around the forest glen inside the workshop. We're not 100% confident where the barrier is going to completely protect us, especially because with so many eyes, with so many interests, like, it's not inconceivable that somebody could accidentally stumble in here. I mean, the chances of that are really low, but when you have so much action happening around, it's kind of starts making those odds a little more reasonable. And then you also have the idea that anything that's flying overhead, there's nothing to stop them from just looking down and seeing us. So, yeah, it's not good. It's not good at all. So we gotta try and put up defenses. We gotta see what we can prepare for, and we're gonna see what's gonna happen. So, buckle up. I have a feeling it's gonna be a spicy episode. Hopefully you'll enjoy yourself. But thank you so much for being here. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be doing stuff. I'm tired of my computer being a problem, so finally having it back and in working order is wonderful. But yeah, there's not really much else to say. Kotori is gonna have to, do something. Hopefully, I'm nervous. Kotori's really overwhelmed for probably a very good reason. Kotoru's not feeling very useful, probably for a really good reason. And I'm not sure what happens if we lose the key. But I'm guessing there's a good reason why all druids from all throughout time and history have said if the key appears, protect it. Keep it away from people who want to use it, abuse it, something. Or, I guess the key sometimes gets killed. And, that's not good. So we'll have to see. Anyway. Let's get started. I walk, confirming the state of the animal carvings in the ground. The bear looks fine. Lion's looking good. No problem with the dog. Fox. The fourth one, the fox, has been shattered. And as I continue further, I also find the cat's carving shattered as well. I report my findings the moment I spot Kotori walking from the opposite direction. Two of your carvings are shattered, the fox and the cat. Growing pale, Kotori rushes in the direction of her working area. Fetch, that's not good. Wait, does that mean the key's gone?
猫は予備があるけど狐がない。
What does that mean?
結界破けちゃった。
Oh, fetch. You mean it's just gone? It's just gone now? Apparently, these shatter in response to stress like the Shikigami. If you don't have a spare, then how long will it take to make another one?
1時間くらい。でも特別な材料がいる。
Wait, we have our mammoth, don't we? Why don't we just give her that? What materials?
特殊な鎮痛力を吸収しやすい樹木が。けどないの。
Don't we have our mammoth?
探してたけど見つからなかったの。
Kotori sinks to the ground. Is there anything else we can do to patch it up?
とりあえずこの猫を混ぜて等間隔で並べ直せば。
That's something. We have to change the position of all of them. That's pretty bad. It'll take at least 20 minutes, no matter how much we hurry. And we have enemies wandering in the area at this very moment. Mammoth! Let's do it. We don't have time to waste.
すぐ見つかる。逃げた方が。
They haven't found us yet. You don't have any other defense. And you've got other defenses, don't you? We can run while it actually happens. For now, we should we should just deal with the situation at hand. My man Kotori, he's finally thinking with his feet and his head. Come on, we gotta patch up your barrier.
一つ足りないとすぐまた負荷で壊れちゃうよ。
But it'll buy us. Maybe we can buy us time. I suddenly have an idea. What about the mammoth you gave me? Can't you use it?
今あるの？
I've been carrying it around constantly. Yes! Yes! I pull it out of my chest pocket. It has some burns, but it hasn't cracked or anything. Life slowly returns to Kotori's eyes. She's like, okay.
狐の位置に埋めてきて。向きに注意してプラスの側が外に向くように。
What plus side? Is that the face? Excuse me. Getting excited here. Which one's the plus side?
小さくプラスとマイナスって書いてある。
Oh, that's a great way to do it. Ah, it does. You sure this isn't a battery? Anyway, I got it. Yes! Yes! I dash away to bury it.
みなぎってきた。
Yeah. Hope springs, though. If we make it through this, we gotta get some more wood.
処置は成功したみたい。
Kotori calms down once she's confirmed the barrier is back up.
結界といっても無敵じゃないから、負荷がかかりすぎるとほころびちゃう。
So I wonder, now the question is, was it an accident? Like, there was just so much commotion going on outside that some of it spilled over and hit the barrier? If so, that's good because it means they weren't really necessarily looking for us, but bad because it seems like if an indirect attack could destroy the barrier like that, then a direct attack would surely shatter it. Second point, if they did know we were here and were attempting to break the barrier, there's two problems with that. Number one, they know we're here. That's really bad. Number two, in the window of time when the barrier was down, did they get in? Where's the key? And that's the other thing too, is like, even if those things didn't happen, did the key escape? Because that's the other thing too, is like the barrier doesn't just keep people out, but it also keeps the key in.
予備は本当ならもっと用意するものなんだけど、私はサボってたから定数プラス3枚しか用意できてなかったの。
You know what, Kotori? You're human and you're also like in high school. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that you were just trying to be a person.
特殊な素材がいるからこういうの。
I'm really glad I brought the mammoth with me. It's kind of burnt though. How long do you think it'll last?
わからない。強い魔物なりが外から結界に何度も触れてたらすぐにどっか壊れちゃうと思う。
Yeah, so that's the thing. So even it could have been indirectly, and you have enough familiars running around accidentally slamming into the barrier, that could take it down. That doesn't sound good. Does the materials grow in the forest?
もう全部取り尽くしたかも。でもわかんない。もっとちゃんと探せばヘロッと見つかることもあるかもだし。
But that brings up another problem of like time. Even if this battle moves away and we leave to go and find it out, like, can we even find more?
本当ならもっと時間をかけて探すべきものなんだ。
What about growing more? Like, I know, like, we can't expect that to be a quick solution, but I'm surprised she didn't decide to try and grow some in her garden once she found the plants. There's a limit to what a student can do. It's not your fault. Just how much of your life do you need to be needs to be sacrificed to be a druid? All of it? In the past, the role might have come with a lot of power and prestige, but in the modern age, it's nothing but an empty title. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of power here, but I get what you're saying, that like when they were more open about the powers and like the world was willing to accept those powers, then yeah, they probably became like clan leaders and such. Chibimoth returns.
鍵いないみたい。
Bitch! It's just what I thought. Kotori relays her findings after touching the little mammoth. What do you mean?
多分結界が破けた隙に。
Oh my gosh!
外に。
Then it almost doesn't matter. Bitch. That's bad. Kotori slides down to the ground. The last thread that was holding her together finally snapped. Hey.
終わったかな。
Oh. If it slipped out and got caught immediately, that could explain why the assault might have stopped. What's over?
全部
She replies as though it doesn't have anything to do with it.
任せちゃおうかな。
Leave what?
鍵のこと。その筋の人たちに。
Yeah, but what are they gonna do with it though? Like, what if it's really bad? Weren't you protecting it precisely so that wouldn't happen? You said that it was the druid's role.
ドルイドだって人間が勝手に鍵を崇拝してそれで始まったことだよ。
Okay.
別に神様からそうしろって命じられたわけじゃない。
Yeah, but you were entrusted with it. Whether it's genetics, God, or just the dice roll of fate, you do have this responsibility, and it's a responsibility you accepted. If you were willing to forego it and just flee with me, and that's genuinely what you want to do, and you don't think you'll have any regrets, then I'd say go. Let's do it right now. But if you for even a second think that you might regret it down the line, that there could be some terrible twist of fate if they're allowed to do what they want with the key, or that you'll spend the rest of your life living in doubt and fear and confusion about what you did and whether or not you are happy with that choice, then we should at least try. You know, if we try our hardest and it still doesn't work out, we at least can go away understanding and having that comfort of being like, look, it wasn't meant to be, but I know I gave it my all. There's a piece to that, even in failure. As long as we can, confidently say, like, we did our best and actually mean it. Sometimes we can feel like we did our best, but maybe don't push that last little mile. I know Kotori's going through a lot, and like, it's not even something that me or Kotori can even say. Even if I were standing right there with her, my words might ring pretty hollow considering I don't really understand and haven't been in her shoes. But like, I think we all face challenges in life, and unfortunately, we don't get to choose those. Maybe they're not as gravitas as the being a druid trying to save the key, potentially save the world. Maybe it's not as impactful as like being a genius that's holds the future of technology in our hands, or being a politician with literally the button to destroy everything within inches of ourselves. Sometimes we're not even the teacher who, despite the feeling and being treated by society as a whole as like a very humble role, in fact impacts dramatically the future. Those are not something that can be discredited regardless of the events that happen around them. And Kotori's a freaking hero. But I thought people were after it, that it might get killed.
殺されるというか、救済を止めるか実行させるか。
Okay, so this is the first time we've seen salvation. Well, maybe not. It might have been mentioned in passing, but because like part of me saying like I've seen that before, but she's actually talking about it like she knows what it is.
その争いが今まで鍵が現れるたびに起きてきたんだよ。
What is this salvation exactly?
救済っていうのは社会に大きな影響を及ぼすもの。
Okay, so just something really dramatic of society. So like you're talking maybe like, are you talking Japan society or are you talking like world society?
激変。
Okay, probably world. Because that's the thing too, like I almost could answer my own question instead of answered it, because remember, she's the key. The key is essentially the manifestation of the will of the planet. So you'd think that the power or influence you can wield with that could be limited to a nation, maybe, but it mightn't. They necessarily could encompass easily the planet.
昔、人は一つの土地に集まって暮らしていた。そしてしばらくは栄えたんだけど、同じ場所にとどまって木を伐採して動物を狩り尽くしてしまったって。
Yeah, actually, I can't remember the name of the island. It's not Crete. There's an island in the Mediterranean. Like, it's not, because like, it's like south and east of Greece. Not quite all the way towards like Palestine or like Turkey, but it is a ways away from the mainland, and it's really interesting because it's an interesting microcosm of this issue. You know, one of the earliest recorded civilizations was set up on this island, and it was actually like the proto-Greek culture. They're not sure if Greek culture influenced them or if they influenced Greek culture. But it was a very well-established land. It had like its own navy. It was very prominent in its time. Like I'm talking like Bronze Age, pre-Bronze Age type of stuff. But the nation vanished before the turn of that century even. And the island itself is really barren except for all these ruins, these fairly advanced ruins. Like I think they even had like some of the first like indoor plumbings and bathing centers. It wasn't quite the same as like actual like Roman aqueduct work and such, but it was like the precursor to that. And they also had a really interesting, from what I remember, a matriarchal society, which is fairly uncommon in Earth's history. It happens, but it wasn't it was one of the few instances we've confirmed it was actually the way it was. But they all vanished. It looks like they just kind of migrated, likely to Greece. But why did they vanish? Well, all the stories and the pictures and the mosaics that they find on the island just depicts the island as being lush and full of just bountiful resources. But now you go there and it's just kind of shrubberies. And that's what happened. They had a great civilization and they had a large navy. But the necessity of that civilization for not only like supporting like the country, but also the navy that they continually had to build up and likely also sold as like boons to other nations. They ended up harvesting every single tree on the island. And then when that resource was gone, their entire society collapsed. They no longer could sustain themselves, and they had to flee to other lands. And to this day, there's very little vegetation there. I think there's been some argument to be said like, well, why don't we introduce like native trees back and let it start recovering? But at the same time, it's also kind of important for us to remember that. So yeah, like what she's talking about here is like, this has happened in small, like early civilization cultures all over the world. But that island in particular, very specifically, highlighted this issue. Because that's the other thing too, is like animals too. They have mosaics of animals, like deer. And there's no deer on that island. There's like not even rats on that island. It's almost completely deathless. It's almost completely dead, not deathless.
そういう時代にも、その時代なりの鍵が現れて、そして、人々は世界中に広がっていったんだって。
Oh, so this theory is going about the keys. So the key is like a manifestation of the planet. The planet saw that like humanity kind of or had an origin, like an original point, but they immediately like over like devoured all the resources and were probably going to die. So the key was sent, and the key literally like forcibly transplanted them. In a way, this might be like the kind of retelling or an explanation for the ancient stories of the Tower of Babel. The idea of a culture in like a one location, and then suddenly being spread to all corners of the earth, various languages and such. But like the key almost feels like a just as valid an explanation, like the world essentially trying to protect people.
救済の内容については禁忌。伝えてはいけないこと。
Okay, so whatever salvation is dangerous.
宿り木の記録にもそのことについては残されていないの。想像することくらいしかできないの。
A change. No matter what it might be, it sure is to have a great effect on the global society. I was wondering, but do you think the key was sent here to check the state of our environment?
かもね。
Okay, maybe. I mean, we're definitely on a really good track of not doing so good in that department. I remember the story of Chernobyl. Apparently, nature started prospering there as soon as humans abandoned the area after the nuclear disaster. If humans disappear, the environment recovers. That's what Prez was saying, right? The key is the planet's eyes, nose, and limbs, its very will. So... But Kazamatsuri is an ecological city, isn't it? Kotori is munching on the last remaining chocolate with unsteady hands like that of a small child. I grow anxious. Then the key should be happy. Humans are doing the right thing. Come on, dude. Think about it. It's a global perspective. It can see all of it, and it can travel. It can literally see all of it. Do you think it's going to make a decision based on its immediate environment and situation? No. In fact, well, it could be. If these summoners or whatever are trying to like get their hands on the key, what's to say that they didn't make Kazamatsuri specifically in order to try and maybe encourage a well font like we have here? Maybe they figured out that by making a very lush area, it would draw the key here, and then they could trap it. I mean, what about the Harvest Festival? It's where we announce new discoveries about environmental preservation. The universities, scientists, even the corporations of the city are doing their best to develop new technology and provide it to the world. The key must think this salvation is unnecessary at this point, too. I can't tell if she's even listening to me. Kotori continues to munch on the chocolate. I imagine the government sent its people, or whoever they are, to stop the possibility of this unwanted change. That's basically what killing the key means. Oh. In a way, it's just like silencing someone to protect the state secret. Okay, interesting. Okay. So, Kotori is trying to protect the key to prevent it from being used to bring about salvation, which last time she figures it was used, literally dispersed humanity across the entire planet, forcibly moving people away from each other. We also know that there are likely organizations, governments possibly, who are unwilling to accept a dramatic, forcible change like that, and want to keep the status quo. And throughout history, those organizations, governments, churches, whatever, have sought to destroy the key to prevent it from enacting a salvation. And then the summoners, maybe, because if Prez is part of that group, which it kind of implied it was with the dragon thing, like seeing her and not attacking her. So if that hypothesis is true, remember how she tried to sell us on this idea. I actually had a rant about it, about how if the Earth is being destroyed by humanity, the simple solution is to just take care of humanity. If humanity leaves, like he just said, the Earth responds and flourishes. So maybe that's the battle here. The key. Either the key dies and humanity is allowed to continue as it is, or the key is supported and it chooses to enact salvation at the cost of humanity. Now, doesn't necessarily mean all humanity, but what if it meant like all technology? But even then, it's the numbers that is really the problem. You almost got a Thanos question here, the idea of like, if you could just snap most of humanity away, would the Earth be able to recover? Would so much of its land now no longer being like directly leaned upon, would it be allowed to kind of re-flourish back to what it once was? Though I'd honestly argue that plastic at this point has made it impossible. It's really neat to see that we're seeing signs that the Earth is starting to like adapt to plastic. Like they're discovering new fungi that actually can process and digest plastics. There's a good chance that like there are species that are sensitive to plastics are going to die out, but the species that are able to resist or even maybe adapt to plastics in like microplastics will be able to survive. The Earth would be able to move on, but it would take a long, long time for that plastic to be scrubbed, unfortunately. Anyway, they kill the messenger to make sure the salvation has no chance of occurring. No one wants to have their lives suddenly turned upside down. That's just the kind of age we're living in right now. The planet has no particular use for the key anymore. Humans are intelligent enough to solve their problems themselves. In which case, the key should just choose to live as another person too, instead of observing over its obsolete role. That's a pretty... First of all, the fact that you're just assuming that we're doing fine, like, no, we're really not. And all depends on us. Kotori, I know you're tired, and I'll remain by your side no matter what. But do you think this is the right time?
タイミングって
For giving up. Her eyes moisten. 2 small drops of water appeared and promptly evaporate like phantoms. You want to stop now? Or do you want to try for just a little bit longer?
続けるどうやって
I don't know. We might be able to think of something. The key can't be seen as by most people. That's one of its main advantages, isn't it? Kotori shakes her head.
鍵とはいえ、魔物には検知できるよ。
Right. But the summoners can't.
そう。
That's the extent of the key's concealment. Despair weighs heavily on our shoulders. I can't blame Kotori for wanting to give up. You did your best. You can give up whenever you want. But once you do that, doesn't it feel like you can push for just a little bit longer? Okay, but once you know that, sorry, I don't know why I said once you do that. Once you know that. It reminds me of a stupid scenario that was shared on the Rooster Teeth podcast. I used to be a much bigger like a fan of Rooster Teeth. I really haven't been participating in their stuff for years now, but one of the questions that they asked that was really funny was like, if you're starving to death in the desert and you're crawling and you're like on your last moments and you're inches from just giving up and someone stepped up in front of you and handed out a sandwich, you'd crawl to the sandwich to eat it, right? Like that hope would let you push past that like point of death. And then he goes on to say like, how long could you drag that out? But like that's the idea is it's like, when you think you've given everything you've got, and then you really kind of realize that, like, it might not matter anymore. Can you honestly say that there isn't a little bit more you could try?
続けろってこと
No, I want you to order me. Kotori gives me a puzzled look. Order me to go.
どうして小太郎くんがそんなに頑張るの小太郎くんには本来関係ないんだよ。
That's the thing. I'm not only not part of it if I choose to stay away from it. If I choose to get involved, then I am a part of it. Didn't you know? There's nothing I wouldn't do for you. Kotori's eyes grow wide. I'll grant every wish you want. You just have to ask. That was a cheesy line, but I love it. Oh, Kotori. Kotori's laugh almost seamlessly turns into sobbing. Kotori? Doesn't look like she's crying because she's moved by my words. There's deep grief in her voice. I don't understand. Why are you crying? You don't want to abandon the key either, do you? I mean, knowing we didn't do anything to save her life will make us feel guilty for the rest of our lives. If there's a chance, we should at least try to see what we can do, right? Even if it doesn't work out. At least we'll know we did everything we could. Not like it'll make any sorrow or regrets go away, but I'm sure it'll make them a lot easier to accept in the long run. I'll be back. I turn around. The kind of end will leave nothing but regrets. Kotori's smile will remain clouded forever. There are terrifying monsters roaming the forest, and combat professionals on some unimaginable level too. Meanwhile, I don't possess that much strength. I'm only slightly better than a complete amateur. But I'll go. I head toward the barrier. I feel intense pressure the closer I get to it. It makes me feel like turning back despite being aware of its effects. I pick up a twig and turn one of the slabs buried in the ground in the opposite direction. The pressure disappears, the barrier opens.
待って、
Kotori, don't forget to close the barrier after I leave.
どうして？
What kind of senseless question is that? Didn't you know? Men can do pretty much anything for the woman they love. Oh, he's just putting on all the cheese. He's grating all the Parmesan and stacking up off the plate. I dash away, hearing Kotori gasp behind me. I suddenly feel someone approach me from behind. Is that one of them? The grass rustles as my pursuer appears.
もう、
Aw, Chibimoth! Oh, it's you. You came to cover my back?
もしょ。
Good man. Or good mammoth. Kotori probably ordered him to do so. In any case, I'm really glad to have him by our side. We've got to find the key before anyone else does. Yeah! We don't have time to stroll around. The sun is about to set. I can see pretty well in the dark, but it still makes my job harder. I advance through the forest in a light jog. Its energy feels completely different from before, probably because of all the beasts prowling around. Yeah, and also just the energy maybe being thrown around. I find footprints from something that's obviously not human. Broken branches off trees and stand out here and there. That wouldn't happen just from walking carelessly. I should probably assume these are signs of battle. I can smell blood. The memory of the bodies I discovered the other day resurfaces in my mind. I slow down, approaching the area carefully. Ow! I hit my forehead against something. I look up to see the heel of a shoe. Oh gosh! There's a person impaled on a branch above me. Holy crap. I desperately suppress my voice. Blood is dripping down from the body. It's fresh. The blood hasn't even begun to congeal. That man looks familiar. I'm pretty sure he was one of the 3 that hunted down the leaf dragon. Can't tell which one though, since the upper half of his head is missing. Oh, lovely. Cool. That's cool. Yay. I'm feeling confident. I don't know if you can tell. It looks like it was bitten off. Not something you can look at directly for long. This terrifies me to the bone, but I muster all I have to advance further. My intuition is telling me that the key is further ahead. And Chibimoth seems to agree. That's the nice thing, though. Our intuition is probably pretty good, considering we've got a piece of her inside of us. If we're actually tuned to it and listening for it, we might be able to just home right into her. After a few more minutes of walking, I start hearing the sounds of fighting. Something very large is moving around. And I can hear occasional cries of that clearly belong to humans, too. Someone is fighting a large beast, most likely the remaining 2 of that trio. I hear a painful cry. It's not a tragic, high-pitched scream like you hear in the movies. It contains genuine pain, the kind of muffled cry you let out when your lungs are crushed. I crouch, hiding in the tall grass. My partner pokes me. His long trunk points to the key, standing defenselessly in the middle of the field. Come on, don't just stand in the middle of the battlefield. The key is standing in the forest. Her clean, emotionless eyes are fixed on a single point. But that point renders me speechless. Oh, that's a real dragon. Oh gosh. What the hell is that? Looks like some sort of joke. Like a scene from a movie. Anyone would gasp in awe seeing the kind of detail on the big screen. It's only natural. Somehow its presence feels even more overwhelming than it did if it were real. Tyrannosaurus Rex. Oh my gosh, it's even worse! Holy crap. Why is its neck so liquidy? Probably familiar based on the Emperor of Terror from the Lost Age. It looks about 15 meters in length. Its sheer size has enough of an impact to shock you out of your wits. I shiver so hard my internal organs almost spill from my mouth. That's an interesting description. Is this thing really a familiar? I feel like I'm seeing a full range of their terror for the first time. The familiars I've previously seen were nothing but small fry. This one is the real thing. The ultimate form of violence designed and given life by the best summoners. Chibimoth is trembling. The remains of his old instincts must be instilling him with terror too. Yeah, and also the fact that he probably understands and can read the power thing. Kotori bragged that Chibimoth was a top-level familiar, but that's merely an evaluation of his overall performance. He's strong for his size and intelligent, but that's all. You surely wouldn't be able to bring Mr. Rex with you on a stroll in town. In ancient times, you probably could have subjugated entire countries with that thing. But standing out so much is a detriment to the past age. There'd probably be few opportunities to use it for its full capacity. The very sight of it has the potential to undo your organization. The masses would go mad. Newspaper editors would dance in elation. The entire world would know it within a week. You couldn't even use it for threats, much less assassinations. It could only work in a place like this, away from human eyes, and in a war. It obviously dwarfs Chibimoth in fighting power. Probably even surpasses the Leaf Dragon. My intuition tells me as much as someone who dabbled in redesigning my own fighting techniques. There's 2 men facing it. 2 of the mysterious trio that hunted down the Leaf Dragon. But a massive muscular body appears beside the dinosaur. I freeze. The man's already missing his right arm and all the way to the shoulder. I'll fetch! I can't tell whether the blood is blood, meat, or internal organs splattering from it at this point. There's no way I could even stand with that kind of a wound. Yet the man is actually running. He launches what looks like a fishing line with a weight on the end from his left hand. Normally, you wouldn't be able to kill a single fox with that kind of thing, but the thread the man threw soars right toward the top of the Rex's head, severing all the tree branches in its way like they were made of butter. It's obvious that there's some extraordinary force at work here. What kind of power is that? A superpower. Those aren't that unusual. In comic books and movies, anyway. It looks like the thread the man is using possesses some sort of insane cutting power. That's not something you could simply learn. You could easily decapitate a person with that. That said, it feels severely limited. You could probably hardly control the thread with that weight on its end. With the trajectory limited to straight lines, it knows no different than swinging a giant sword. A gun would be much better projectile weapon. Especially if you consider the time it takes for the attack to reach its target. Yeah, but if this weapon is way, way stronger than a gun, seems like it's still better to master. You can't snipe anyone with a thread. And with lots of obstacles like that in the forest, this man's mainly limited in vertical swings. I can't see him winning. Not like there aren't any advantages to his method of fighting, though. For starters, it's probably the pretty convenient weapon in country that bans swords from firearms. And there's a fact that it severs anything it comes in contact with, too. It's definitely way more dangerous than a blunt attack. How will it go? Synchronizing with the man, I observe the fate of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's a test of whether his thread is sharp enough to actually cut through the dinosaur's skin. But what follows leaves me speechless. The monster actually dodges the attack. It jumps diagonally, gracefully moving between the trees. Fetch me! A smooth movement, like an amphibian transitioning from land to water. It moved so fast it looked as if his body dissolved into darkness. It must have shattered the man's sense of reality. I don't know whether the ancient dinosaurs roared, but this familiar doesn't let out a single unnecessary sound. Its movements are as fast and efficient as possible, and it possesses eyes that see in the dark, as well as the ability to pull off feats like I just saw. So this isn't even a T-Rex. Like, a T-Rex couldn't do that. This is a T-Rex on steroids. Kind of like how the dogs aren't actually dogs. They're like dogs on steroids, which is really terrifying if you think about it. It's like, this isn't just the king of the dinosaurs, which, granted, probably wasn't even that big of a king to begin with. Like, probably more like a lion. Well, we call the lion king of the jungle, despite the fact it doesn't live in the jungle, but I digress. But then you take it, soup it up, and give it all the powers you could ever imagine, like, of any other hunting creature, and then you got something real scary. As a result, the man completely loses sight of the beast as his thread hits the ground. It may have only been for a moment, but he shouldn't have let out his sight. No matter how confident you are in your attack, you can never lose sight of your opponent. The Rex's tail launches out of the darkness, impaling the giant man like a paper. It flew through the air with absolute precision, like the dinosaur's previous dodge. An attack that doesn't even allow you to feel the insane weight behind it. An attack that surpasses our very senses. The man twitches and falls to the ground. The tail of the dinosaur is thicker than any stake. It must have obliterated his heart in an instant. The Tyrannosaurus Rex applied exactly the right amount of force to achieve its goal. Shouldn't it be the other way around? The little ones are supposed to outsmart and outmaneuver large monsters, but I just witnessed a complete reversal. Yeah, so it's got the size and the speed That's terrifying.
焼けちまえ!
A panicked scream rings out from further away. It sounds like the leader of the trio. I can't see him. He must be fighting further away. A few seconds later, I hear a cry. Did he get killed? The trio that defeated the leaf dragon with minimal injuries. Staying here would be bad. No crap! I approach the key. I grab her hand and pull her to myself. After that, I run. I managed to make it pretty far away. Okay, I think we should be alright here. I succeeded at retrieving the key. Ignoring my tension, the key stares in the direction we came from. Did it enjoy the fight that much? Its life is in severe danger, and yet... Are you like one of those idiot tourists with a death wish? Warfare is part of human nature. Is the key trying to learn something? Ah! Hi! Chibimoth suddenly tenses up. Is it a beast? I focus my senses but can't feel anything. I may have enhanced everything about myself, but I can't quite match Chibimoth's animal sensitivity. Chibi, what's the safest direction?
Moyo.
I have to cover my faults with my faults with brains. I follow Chibimoth, pulling the key's hand. Something flies right in front of me. Oh no. It's Chibimoth. The small frame was supposed to be walking in front of me, collapses limply at my feet. No! Huh? A thick branch is sticking out Chibimoth's side. What the? Hey, are you okay? Something cold touches my neck as I kneel to confirm Chibimoth's condition.
はい、お疲れさん。
Oh no.
俺、今宮、忘れちゃった?
Oh, you're the random dude. Oh no. Mr. Imamiya? The person I met while I was buying my camera. I don't think he introduced himself back then though. What is he doing here? I'm sorry. It looks like my pet was injured.
ああ、それペットだったの。ごめんね。害獣かと思ったんで。
But he's here for the key. He apologizes, but the cold object remains pressed against my neck. Is that a knife? Why?
天王寺くんさ、何してんのかな、こんなとこで。
What? I almost end up blurting out the truth. It'll obviously be the end of me if I end up fooled and give in to the laid-back attitude. I have to choose my words carefully. He's holding me at an angle that makes it really hard to move. His intent is obvious to stop me from making any sudden movements. Mr. Imamiya is acting under the assumption I'm going to do something. In short, who is he? Would anyone enter this forest for fun in its current condition? It's not impossible after all. It's the last day of the Harvest Festival. But actually, I'd like to know what you're doing here, Mr. Imamiya.
いやー、バイトっすよ、バイト。危険な動物がいるってんで、安全確保のためパトロール中。
That's possible. But why would the city hire some random punk? Who cares about that? I'm more worried about Chibimoth. Looks bad. The branches pierce straight through him. His four legs are twitching. Could you let me go?
何してたの?
His voice grows cold. Unable to suppress my irritation at this point, I answer his question. I was looking for the cryptids for my club.
でも、君のオカルト研究会って活動休止でしょ?
For a moment, I'm speechless. I'm both surprised that he would know such a thing and startled by having my lie seen through so quickly. I asked another question during my silence.
それって何? 犬?
It's my dog, as you can see. Mr. Imamiya, I have to treat him. I'm sorry, but could you let me go?
ああ、平気平気。もうそいつ致命傷だし、助かんねえよ。
His tone has changed again. There's no goodwill left in it whatsoever. I'm seriously freaking out here. I need to take him to the vet.
犬かね、それ。犬っぽいけどさ。おい、誰かいねえ? うっす。
Another delinquent-looking young man appears from the shadows. Wait a minute. If these are the delinquents that were rallied in the town, does that mean Yoshino's with these guys? Since when was he there? The two begin talking as I freeze in trepidation.
どうそいつ、お前の目で。
いや、普通に犬じゃないっすよ。それ、つうか M っす。
だしょ？そう思ったわ。怪しいし。何？
マンモスってやつかな。小せえっすけど、初めて見るタイプで。
They probably think I'm a summoner now. I make up my mind the moment I realize he can actually see through Chibimoth's disguise. I have to escape no matter what. I reconfirm the key's location. Luckily, it's standing nearby. It's observing us from the dark shadows of the trees. A smile. What kind of being could smile at a time like this? Can I fend off these two while also protecting Chibimoth and the key? It'll be possible if they're normal people. I can just overpower them. But if they aren't, the force holding me down isn't normal. It feels like it has the strength of several people behind it, if not more. It can't be the same as me, right? But while I'm desperately thinking of a way to escape, the key stops out from the shadows. Idiot, what the heck are you doing?
暴れるなっての。状態分かってねえの。首切れっぞ。あとさ、他になんかいねえ、この近く。
他っすか？
こいつと、そいつと。
He points at me and Chibimoth.
あと一つ、でけえ木みてえの感じるんだけど。
さあ、特に見えないっすよ。
That's our only saving grace. The man looks around, but his eyes pass over the key as though it isn't even there. I relax. He can't see it. The key's camouflage is pretty strong, according to Kotori. A pretty rare case for being able to see it, but apparently it's not an easy feat. This is our chance.
はい、聞いてるよ。
You wouldn't happen to work for the government, would you?
あ？何言ってんの？
No, I was thinking the government might be hunting cryptids or something.
あ？とぼけちゃってまた。
What?
政府だ？そんなんでごまかせるかっての。バカだよお前。あいつらに加担しちまうなんてよ。
What idiots?
仮にそうでなくても、この状況自体がアウトなんだよ。学校で習っただろ。人質もテロリスト扱いしろって。
What are you talking about?
なんだかんだ言って、俺はお前を評価してたんだぜ。
Thanks?
どんな理由かは知らねえが、土地狂いやがって。
Mostly just not knowing what's going on.
ああ、嫌だ嫌だ。こんなことしたくねえのによ。
The knife digs into my neck. Gotta be kidding.
冗談ねえ。バカだよ、お前。マジ最悪。
Amamiya drives his blade in without even giving me time to negotiate. Can't feel a thing. I don't even know if he cut me or not. But he must have. This is how it feels to have a knife in your neck. I'll die if the blade digs a few millimeters deeper. Seems like this is as far as my determination will get me. I'll meet my end without getting a single chance to counterattack, without even knowing the reason why I'm being killed. It's almost funny, to the point I can barely take it seriously. I'm just embarrassed. This isn't actually the end, right? I'm ashamed of my own naivete. Thought that complete amateur like myself could do something in this battlefield of professionals. It's so pathetic. But at least I got the chance to realize my stupidity before death. At that moment, Chibimoth moves. Like a zombie coming back to life, he leaps upward with brutal efficiency and slams straight into Imamiya. Does he know some kind of secret martial art, or does he actually have superpowers? Imamiya took an attack that would have destroyed a normal person insides and only staggered a few steps back. It looks like he managed to deflect most of the impact's kinetic energy into the ground with forcible stance in the fashion of the greatest martial arts masters. That said, even he can't avoid leaving openings in his defenses after something like that. A long trunk wraps around my hip and picks me up effortlessly. Then a coiled tusk scoops up the key, and Chibimoth breaks into a dash. Okay. Imamiya's subordinates jump at us. I instantly blast a roar from my right hand. It hits the lackey right in the eyes, stopping him in his tracks. That's the needle attack I practiced earlier. Ow! Did I blind the guy permanently? I don't care. Both of them are out of sight behind us before anyone can react. Kotori said he was among the most powerful familiars. You've got to give him credit for his leg strength, but this is obviously over his weight limit. Chibi, don't push yourself too far. Chibimoth continues speeding through the woods in ungodly speed. With nothing reminiscent of a saddle, riding him isn't just uncomfortable, it's the essence of pain itself. The whole world violently shakes up and down like the camera of the worst live-action movie possible. I'm totally at the mercy of his speed, while desperately clinging to Chibimoth's back. Falling leaves smash against my face, jolting me with pain. Just how fast is he running? Can't help but marvel at his speed, but at the same time, it's obviously abnormal. I can't help but feel like he'll have to pay the price for this. Stop it, Chibi. We shook him off already. But Chibimoth only kicks off the ground harder, further increasing his speed. Hey! The key hanging off his trunk has a faint smirk on his face. Chibi, stop it! I can run by myself, come on! But his dash continues. I can smell traces of death in the air. He's using the last spark of his life for this. Oh, man. And so we finally reached the barrier. We've managed to retreat all the way to our base. And now it's time to pay the price. No! You did great, Chibi. The beast shivers in my arms. Imamiya wasn't lying about it being a lethal wound. The branch sticking out Chibi's side is hard as an axe blade, and it's obviously pierced his vitals. The barrier opens and Kotori appears. Kotori, Chibi has...
もうダメみたいね。
Oh, no!
さ、入って。チビはほっといていいから。残骸は消えちゃうから。始末しなくて平気。
Don't disassociate. I can't fathom what she's saying. What the hell's wrong with you?
人に見つかるから急いで。
Chibi's hurt. Treat him. Kotori shakes her head.
残念だけど、それもう限界。
Why do you keep calling him it?
完全に壊れてる。もう直せないよ。
Stop talking like that. It's Chibimoth. It used to be your...
素材は、そうだね。
She's literally just cutting herself off.
私が昔飼っていた犬。でもね、小太郎くん。チビモスは魔物なんだよ。それって、生き物とは違うってこと。だから、感情を込めちゃいけない。その子、とっくに死んでる。
No, I mean, he was alive. He sacrificed his life for us.
魔物だから。そういう命令をしてあったから。
I don't like this. No, that's not how it happened. Maybe that's true of other familiars, but he was special. He had a mind of his own.
ないよ。
He had emotions.
錯覚。
No, he was alive. Have I ever been this angry at Kotori before? I can't remember. There was no way it could have gotten along so well if it wasn't alive. I couldn't feel he was alive. It was as though he's different from other familiars too, didn't you? Okay, sorry. Rephrase that. I'm getting too caught up in the emotions. You thought he was different from other familiars too, didn't you? That's because he was the dog that you loved so much, and his feelings remained there even if he was transformed.
小太郎くん、怪我の後遺症で記憶が曖昧なのは仕方ないこと。けど、こんなことも忘れちゃった？
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
ペロは、私にも懐いてなかったよ。
What? Huh?
哀れな犬だった。前の飼い主に虐待されて、心まで萎縮して、耳がハサミで切られててなかった。潰された足も不自由だった。
Holy crap.
お父さんが引き取った時、もう誰も信頼することができなくなってた。小屋に閉じこもりっぱなしで。私は何度も散歩に引っ張り出そうとして、そのことは誰にも言わなかった。言ったら、保健所だと思ったから。保健所ってね、小太郎くん。毎日たくさんの犬を殺すんだよ。
That's one of those things that we all know, but we pretend not to know. Because the other problem with that, even if you are against anti-kill shelters, I volunteered at an anti-kill shelter. And there's two really sad facts about it. Number one, they do not have the resources for everything. Literally, if they actually kept the promise of literal no kills, all the animals would starve to death. There would be 5 dogs in a kennel, and they would be fighting each other to the death. And there would be nothing anyone could do about it. And so fact number 2, no kill shelters ship dogs that they struggle to find homes for to kill shelters. Because it's just not tenable any other way. I'd love to believe that there were other options, but the problem is that there are just too many. We allow too many dogs and cats to breed, and they start causing problems. And if they escape into the wild, they start to breed more, and it causes more problems, and it cascades until you have packs of wild dogs and feral cats everywhere. And that's just cruel to the animals, and cruel to us, and cruel to our pets. It's all just cruelty. That's why they always talk about spaying and neutering. Because even if you don't keep that animal, if you can prevent it from just procreating recklessly, it saves a lot of future pain and trouble. Which is really sad to be able to try and take life and nominalize it, right? But the alternative is just so bad and so inhumane that's really not a better option right now. As much as I wish there were. Like, dreams and reality have to come together at some point. That's what really has to be the truth about life and compromise. It's the same thing with like government and family dynamics. Like, ideally, every family would get along and support each other. Every family would be able to respect each other's choices regardless of what they are, but also have like that space to be able to step up and say when something's going too far, when people are doing something that's damaging them. But families are toxic. Families can be terrible to each other. And sometimes they need to be cut away from your life. As much as you should never have to do that, sometimes it does happen, and for the best reasons. Animals should never have to die for simply existing. But the alternative is almost far crueler, and thus breeds a necessity. So yeah.
だから絶対、保健所にはやるもんかって、報われることはなかったよ。ペロは私のことも最後まで敵だって思ってた。そのことで小太郎くんに相談だってしたよ。覚えてない？人の身勝手の犠牲になった犬だったよ。同情する。けどはっきり言って、ちっとも可愛くなんてなかった。愛してなんてなかった。必死に世話してたのは、きっと気持ちを返してくれるっていう、そういう期待があるって信じてたから。
So her compassion overflowed over her actual emotions.
世の中には善が満ちてるって信じてたから。
She believed. She doesn't believe it anymore.
寿命で死んだ時、私はほっとした。死んでくれてよかったって思った。
I mean, it sounds cruel, but honestly, I get it. I really get it. It's like, I don't know if you've ever had to watch a loved one going through severe pain, especially towards the end of life. And like in the case that I'm thinking of, I wasn't even present for it. My grandmother recently passed away of cancer. She'd fought off cancer before. She'd gone through all the hard treatments and had been declared cancer-free in remission. And for like, she got another like 15, 20 years, which is great. But when it came back, and it came back stronger, and came back, and before they didn't detect it before it already started spreading because it kind of picked up where the last one left off. There really wasn't much point in fighting it. The chances of her actually surviving the treatments was about the same. So she decided to just accept it as a countdown timer. But then I talked to my aunt afterwards, and she talked about how it was having her mom lying on a hospital bed in her own house and watching her literally withering away. That by the time the last 2 months, she couldn't talk, she couldn't move, but she was in pain constantly. And so either she was in pain or she was so doped up she wasn't conscious. And so she said sitting in that room, visiting her every day, really stopped feeling like she was there a long time before she died. And she's grateful she had the time to say goodbye, but the pain that she had to go through watching it, my aunt even said that, like, I love my mom with all my heart, but it was so hard that by the time her time came, it was relief, not sorrow, that I felt. And that's just kind of how life is, right?
でも、少しは愛着もあったんだよ。無念かな。最後まで懐いてくれなかったから。だから魔物にした。そしたら、忠実な魔物になったんだ。性能もびっくりするくらい良くてね。今までのことがチャラになるくらい、よく働いてくれたよ。それがチビモス。魔物化って、蘇生とは違う。
Right.
チビモスは、ペロじゃない。
As I think, turning something into a familiar isn't the same as resurrecting them. But isn't that kind of what we are? We're like half a familiar, essentially. So, and we have our shattered memories, right? So, by that logic, are we not even real either? And is that part of why she never reciprocates our feelings, right? Maybe she's always written off our feelings as just mimicry, maybe even a reflection of her selfish desires of how much she cared for us. And when she crafted us back from the brink of death, she feels she might have infused that, and that we, like Pero, aren't really Kotaru. We're a familiar that feels very real, but ultimately isn't. And so maybe the reason why she's always turned us aside hasn't been because like she felt like she was protecting us, but maybe because she's a realist. And despite the fact that she does love Kotaru, she doesn't see Kotaru as Kotaru anymore. She sees him as familiar based off the corpse of my friend. Which I don't think's true, but she might see it that way, and that would explain a lot.
ペロはとっくの昔に死んだんだ。
Kotori spits out the last words with palpable anger. But still, I mean...
小太郎くんは優しいね。けど魔物って使い捨て。
But still...
いちいち悲しんでたらどうにもならないよ。辛いだけだよ。
I don't care. It was much more painful and sad for him. I can still barely feel Chibi's moving in my hands. Looks like he's in pain, which means he is. Come on, I understand he's a familiar, but you can at least pet him one last time, can't you?
魔物に感情移入は。
Shut up! Just give me a yes or no! I glare at her. Kotori faces my anger with a conflicted expression. I know it's not Kotori I'm angry at. My heightened emotions slowly escape from my chest as I breathe out. I understand the part of them not having no emotions, but just do it for me. At least take his pain away.
わかった。
Kotori kneels by me.
おちび。
This won't be the thumbnail because it'll be too much of a spoiler, but fetch me. I love you, Chibimoth. Even if you're not real. Her small hand hesitantly approaches him, touching Chibimoth. No, what used to be Pero. Chibimoth stopped shivering, as though his pain was banished by an invisible power.
感覚器を切ったよ。痛みもないはず。
Yeah, he looks better.
よくやったね。小太郎くんと鍵を。守ったんだね。
He was a good boy.
鍵を守れとは命じてなかったのに。本当に不思議。ありがとね。
Chibimoth wraps his trunk around his master's hands. He can't let out any sounds at this point. His hit points are going to run out any moment. That's an apt description if he really isn't alive, as all he possessed was a limited supply of durability for fighting. I've got to thank him too. Thanks, partner. He trembles one more time. Just watching feels painful. I hope it'll be over soon. Gosh darn it, no! I'm not gonna cry over this! I don't want to cry over this!
チビ。
It seems Kotori was moved as well. Huh? It barked? That voice. I remember. The dog that refused to give in. The frantic barking. There was a time when the neighbors even submitted an official complaint. There was one major headache that didn't pay off. Yeah, that nostalgic sound shocks us both. Holy crap.
ペロ？
It's a dog still. Holy crap. His small body trembles one last time before relaxing. Kotori said that turning the corpse of an animal into a familiar didn't mean it was resurrected, but that was definitely a dog barking. Kotori standing frozen in place as though her soul has left her. What happens to familiars when they die? They disappear. As though paying his dues to existing beyond his original death, Chibimoth begins dissipating into small particles crumbling like sandcastle. It's a beautiful death. I suppose whether someone can take comfort in that kind of death or not depends on the person. To me, the whole process comes off as overly sanitized. Animal death is a lot dirtier than that. It's raw and it stinks. But familiars disappear as though they were never even there, because they were never really alive. I suppress my instinct to scream. A chilled, somber atmosphere hangs over the humid forest. You better not let the key get away this time. Grab it! Fetch me, stop doing that. Oh, she's still here. A melody pours from the key's lips. An unstable high pitch reminiscent of a scream. A disturbing, ear-piercing cry that ignores all musical conventions. Yet it still counts as a song. an alien melody that has nothing to do with the harmonious sound that humans normally produce. The cries of the key occasionally lets out seem to be parts of the same song, an intermittent hymn. So a constant rhythm or timbre that's always going on, like the world's voice, like a constant musical interlude that she's just tapped into, that she occasionally like kind of barks out like little bits of, but now she's like actually producing. It's really funny. I'm kind of constructing with my friends a tabletop RPG world that they helped me craft together, and that I'm doing the lore for right now to get ready for a future game. And one of the foundational parts of the world's creation was something I'm calling the music of creation. It was a music sung by the souls of all the people who were part of the cycle of that life, like both living and dead. As their world began to collapse and the universe was coming to an end, they sang this song that preluded like the beginning of the creation of the universe as it was. And the song continued on, and they all tapped into it at the very end after a very tough fight. And that through that, they were able to kind of rebirth the universe from the raw materials of the collapse. And that's going to be a running theme for the rest of the game, is that bards are ever in pursuit of this rhythm of creation, and some people even worship it as an entity. Not an entity like a god that like makes choices, but as a divine power that supersedes all the gods, that predates all of them, and is kind of the source of the power and the limitations that they have to follow. Same with people. It's all about hearing that song, that music. And so thus, if in my world there were a key that manifested as the soul of a planet, it also would be tuned into this music. But this time it isn't cut off, forming a melody. The former squirms despite making no sound. It feels as though the sound is impregnating the very air with soul, providing trees with a mind of their own. The ground writhes as the very bedrock sings. The sound possesses a property that makes humans uncomfortable, for they realize that they are the only ones who can't hear the song of the planet. Oh, that's really sad. The key. Why are you singing? I cover my eyes. We're totally misaligned. Kotori, Key, and I, the summoners and the superhumans, the very world, all of us are just doing what we can. Yet the truth is equally inaccessible to all of us. Yeah, I bet they remain numb. We're gonna stop here, but dang it. I wasn't wanting to tear up today. Gosh darn it, Chibimoth. I wish I could put out a full bounty, but I'm not rich. So, unlike very powerful and very large YouTube channels, I can't put out a bounty. But if anyone knows if I can buy a plush Chibimoth somewhere, I would be very interested in that investment. He was the best thing. And now he's gone. That ending, holy crap. What are we even supposed to do now? Because if anything, that song might have even spurred the people hunting the key on to greater efforts, right? I don't know. Yeah, this is some raw stuff we talked about today. Holy crap. Please take care of your loved ones and your pets. I think it's really important to be optimistic and to try and live and strive for a better world, but we also have to hold on to realism and understand that, like, wishes don't make reality. People can make wishes become reality, but by confronting reality. It's a bridge, it's a process, it's a movement. If there are things you wish the government was doing, that your family was doing, that you were doing, you have to take baby steps. No one's born a master, and no one's worthy of playing a Stradivarius until they put in the work. No one's able to make things become better, to shape the world, whether it's your world or the world at large, without putting in that effort, putting in that desire, putting in that passion. And even then, it might not be far enough. There are a lot of people who have passion. Their dreams die on the cutting table. Doesn't mean it wasn't worth it, though. So, I hope we can all kind of learn from this episode in a weird way, because it talks a lot about like that union of dreams and desires and reality, and kind of where they all stand and how apart they actually are. And merging them together gets pretty messy, but I believe it's worth it. Anyway, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for being part of the channel and for joining me for this wonderful episode. Fetch me. I am blown away by this game again. I have no idea what's going to happen next. I kind of went into this scenario with a general idea of kind of what the fighting was going to end up being. Didn't predict everything, but I was kind of like, it all was within relative scope. But that ending wasn't. And now I'm not sure where we go. So we'll have to see. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me, especially thank you to the patrons and members who make it possible for me to invest more into the channel, getting good art, having more content, being able to be made more often. I appreciate you all. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed, and until the next video, watch me up and see me next. I'll see you there.